might have to share programs. I would like to introduce our district ceremonies for, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Lana Raspberry. The chairperson of the forum. And I'd like to introduce our president, Solano Valley Alumni Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta, one of your hosts tonight, and it's Ms. Rosalind Reed.
Good evening, my name is Rosalind Reed, and I'm the president of Solano Valley Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Delta Sigma Theta was founded in 1913 at Howard University in Washington, D.C. by 22 dynamic, visionary collegiate students dedicated to public service. Public service in our communities are driven by a 5-point programmatic thrust of educational development, economic development, international awareness, political action and awareness, and physical and mental health. This candidate forum today is under our umbrella of political action and awareness. Thank you for taking the time to become more informed and be the candidate. At this time, please welcome Reverend Anthony Gilmore, Senior Pastor of Bethel Community Church, who will be providing our opening prayer and bringing greetings from Bethel Community Church.
Welcome to Bethel Community Church. Shall we bow our heads in a word of prayer? Eternal God, we give you thanks today for another day. We thank you once again that we, your people, can come before you and ask guidance for the men and women of this assembly. I pray this evening that you would send your spirit of peace, honesty, and fairness to this room. May their ears and hearts be open to listen to the hopes and the needs of those who they represent. I pray that you would bless the people of this great nation, of our great state, of our great county, and our great cities. Bless us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and that we might responsibly participate in the American democracy during this season. Please keep all who work for the people in good health, that they might faithfully fulfill the great responsibility given to them in their service to the work of our democracy. We pray now that you would bless us this day and every day, and may all that is done be for your greater good, for your honor and your glory. God bless the United States of America. Amen.
Amen.
Looking at dignitaries in the audience, and I see Skip Thompson. I don't see anybody else, but he told me that we're all dignitaries. The candidate,
two of them up here.
yes, and Aaron Hannigan. I didn't introduce you guys to you. The candidate forum is a partnership between Bethel Community Church, Tau Upsilon Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the Solano County Chapter of LINCS. I'd like to welcome Deanna McDougal in place of Paula Lawton. She will be speaking on behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority.
I just really like to welcome you all here because voting is one of the most important privileges that we in this country have. And so many people have fought and died for the privilege of being able to vote. And people continue to be disenfranchised in many parts of our country, and we need to honor this and take it seriously. And so I'm happy to have these wonderful candidates here. I want to tell you a little bit about my organization, Alpha Kappa Alpha. Alpha Kappa Alpha is the oldest three-letter organization. It was established for African American women, and it was founded January 15, 1908, on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. And the principles are sisterhood, scholarship, and service to all humankind. This organization was founded on two key things. The first is the importance of the individual. The second is the strength of an organization of women of ability. Alpha Kappa Alpha has over 200,000 members in over 950 chapters located in the United States, Caribbean, Germany, Korea, and Japan. And this year, one of our main focuses, of course, is voter registration. Some of the other programs that we are targeting is HBCU for Life. And recognizing that HBCU funding is one of the primary obstacles. And for those of you who don't know what HBCU is, the acronym, historically black colleges and universities. And those were founded on the heels of slavery and on the heels of deep segregation in this country when people were not allowed to join other organizations. And so one of our big programs, HBCU for Life. Another program that we have is women's health care and wellness with emphasis on breast cancer awareness and prevention, heart health. And in fact, on Friday, we're having a heart health awareness program at Macy's here in Fairfield, starting at 1 o'clock. Nutrition and wellness, also building our economic legacy, which is very, very important, since a lot of people have been redlined and people have been cheated out of on their mortgages and so forth. That's a very important program. The arts is another program that we focus on, global impact, the National Global Impact Day. And one of the programs that we're really working on right now, and ask all of you to contribute to this program if you can, and that's called Soul for Soul. And what we're doing is we're collecting gently worn shoes for children, adults, and men and women. And what we're going to do is send those shoes to Haiti for families who are in need. The Lions Club International, we're partnering with them to collect gently used, new or gently used glasses. And you know, you can go to a dollar store and you can get those glasses. Our goal for Soul to Soul is 500 pair of shoes. Our goal for the Lions Club International is 150 pair. And also our last project is called Pillowcase Project. And what we're doing is we're making dresses for kids in Haiti out of pillowcases. And we're making shirts for those as well. And our goal for that is 300, and so far we'll probably make about 20. So, what we're going to do is we're going to have an evening where we just do sewing. And that's one of the easiest things in the world to sew. But the main thing is just the impact. And there again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. And I will pass the baton back to our Mr. Ceremony.
At this time, I'd like to welcome Lynette Henley to present about the links, this Solano County chapter of links.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. This is an exciting event. Voting is our most honored, privileged opportunity. And for some it came early and some it came late. That all of us get to vote now. There's a lot of voter suppression for a variety of reasons. But let me tell you about the Links Incorporated. The Links Incorporated is an international, not-for-profit corporation established in 1946 in Philadelphia. The membership consists of more than 16,000 professional women of color and 288 chapters located in 41 states, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and the United Kingdom. It is one of the nation's oldest and largest volunteer service organizations of extraordinary women who are committed to enriching, sustaining, and ensuring the cultural, economic survival of African Americans and other persons of African descent. And we do this through our 5 facets of health and human services, the arts, national transit services, international transit services, and services to youth. And one of our focuses when we're working on national transit services and services to youth is early voter registration. How many of you know that 16-year-olds can be registered to vote? Pre-registered. So they're ready to go when they turn 18. A little about our local chapter. The Solano County chapter of Links Incorporated is a group of women linked together to form a strong chain of friendship and service. The organization is pledged to community service, academic excellence, cultural enrichment, advocacy, wellness, social action, and women's issues. As Links, we endeavor to make a significant and positive difference in our community, and this evening is one of our opportunities. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to welcome our distinguished moderator and my sorority sister, Tamara Raspberry Harris. Tamara Raspberry Harris is a 20-year veteran of the state capital community. She joined the staff of California Secretary of State Alex Padilla in 2016 as the Assistant Director of Strategic Business Partnerships and Outreach. Her responsibilities include building public and private partnerships between the Secretary of State throughout the Bay Area and Northern California. We are honored that she was able to share her time this evening to moderate this forum. Pamela Raspberry.
I'm going to review the candidate guidelines. Each speaker will be introduced by district and then alphabetically by name. Candidates, you will have 3 minutes to share about yourself and present your platform. The timekeeper will raise the green card for you to begin. The yellow card, when the green card shows how much time does that start? That's just the start. The yellow card is meaning that you have 1 minute left. And then a red card for you to properly end.
You just should say stop.
And I will make sure that you do. We've allowed 30 minutes for the panel to answer 5 selected questions. After the panel,
Apologize, did you say it's going to be 30 minutes?
30 minutes total.
Got it.
So you'll do 3-minute introduction. And then we will have a 30-minute panel where all of you will have a chance to answer the same 5 pre-selected questions. After the panel questions, you'll have an opportunity to answer audience questions, which I will receive from the organizers of the event. At the end of the audience question and answer period, each candidate will then have 2 minutes for closing remarks, and the same color card timing system will apply. Are there any questions? Oh, I have one question. How long does a candidate have to answer the question? 2 minutes to answer the question. Okay. 2 minutes. So, talk fast. Okay. So, when we get to the questions, you will have 2 minutes. Yes.
I might have missed it. Do we have time to do a close?
Yes. At the end of the audience question and answer period, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. And the color card system, timing system will also apply. Any more questions? Great, we will begin. I will introduce each candidate after I say your name. You'll have 3 minutes to do your opening statement. For District 1, we have Aaron Hannigan, County Supervisor.
Well, I want to thank the organizers of tonight's candidate forum. I think it's important that we have things that do occur in multiple places so that we have a lot of opportunities for the community to come out. So thank you so much to the organizers in the location. This is actually kind of coming home for me. I was one of the first houses my parents owned was on Oriole Court, which is around the corner. I was a kindergartner at Cleo Gordon before we moved across town and then continued in public school after that point. But, you know, I was raised by people with a purpose, and their purpose was to help people. My mother was an adult school teacher and an administrator here in Fairfield. My father was a public servant for many, many years. And growing up in a household where we always talked about how to help people, how to, what were some of the needs in the community, talking about politics, talking about being engaged, that was the basis, the foundation of really my life's work as well. I have been serving the city of Vallejo in Solano County. This is my 13th year. I was on the city council in Vallejo for 5, and then here at the Board of Supervisors for, this is our 8th year. And at every turn, Every choice, every decision I made came from listening to the community and what were the needs of the community and finding resources. Connecting the community to resources has always been my purpose. And I think that is the best use of the skills and the networking that I've done and the access that I have to all kinds of resources, not just in the county, but statewide, regionally, etc. I'm very proud to serve the city of Vallejo and also Solano County as a county supervisor. I'm very proud of my record. I have some information on the back table as well that you can look at. There's more information about the work that I've been doing. It's kind of hard to succinct, 8 years in a small little flyer. But again, it comes down to how do we help people. One of the first things I did on the Board of Supervisors is brought to my fellow colleagues a smoke-free campus policy for all of our county buildings and parks. They adopted the policy. We heard from members in our community who worked at these buildings that some of them do smoke, so we put in place opportunities for employees and also for the public to take smoking cessation courses. Why? Because people who come to our buildings, particularly our health centers, have compromised health systems, and so that was kind of the beginning of the work that I've been doing. In the last 3 years, I've been able to secure $3 million from the Yoshidi Winton Nation, and that money is distributed in a way that is filling gaps for people throughout the county. We have our mobile food pharmacy, which provides free food to folks who visit our clinics. Again, we have issues with food insecurity, we have issues where people live in food deserts, and we have folks who have serious medical conditions that by changing their diet might be able to reduce those conditions and reduce the amount of medication that they have to take and live longer to love their families. $600,000 of that $3 million has gone to keeping people housed, and you're going to hear more about it. So with that, we're trying to get the red card out. All right, thank you so much.
Robert O'Connell is on the Vallejo City Council and is not able to attend tonight because of commission interviews. From District 2, we have Monica Brown, the incumbent county supervisor.
So my name is Monica Brown, a retired teacher, 39 years, 30 at Green Valley. I served as a trustee for Solano Community College, and if you want to see a Division I looking softball field, drive around the perimeter. It looks wonderful for our young ladies. I also spent 7 years on the Solano County Civil Service Commission, and if you've been around a while, it was Gordon Gojkovic who appointed me, so that was some time. One of the things, I've been on for basically 3 years, because you get elected in 2016, but you take the oath of office in 2017. I was able to, when I got on, we found out that the Area Agency on Aging, the nonprofit, was not only using money, bottom line is the senior citizens were not getting fed. So the California Department of Aging shut it down. We've set up a JPA, and so now all senior citizens, and I was chair this past year. We work with NAPA, so we take turns on that. The other things that I've been able to do is I got Laura's Law through. I serve on the Mental Health Advisory Board. It is a tool to help. So if you as a parent have somebody in your family that you believe needs to be assessed, we now have a tool to help you. It's Laura's Law. The other is that we got the Home Enterprise Kitchen. And we're waiting for the ordinance, but what that means is that you can at home, after you've been certified and your kitchen's been checked out, you can create and cook 60 meals a week and make up to $50,000. I serve on the in-home support staff, the in-home support services, and what that means is that if you're at home, you have an opportunity now to have some sort of a way to earn some money so that you can stay at home, so I'm proud of that. A couple things I got through for our immigrant community is public charge. And so therefore the Solano County is opposed to the public charge, meaning that our immigrant community, if they take any services at all, might not be able to become a citizen, and that's just wrong. The other is public housing. So there's lots of different things we've worked on. One thing, though, that we didn't get through was a citizen redistricting for the board. So in other words, the census is very important. Why is that important? Because redistricting will happen in 2022 on the Board of Supervisors. Tried to get it so that it was an independent group to do it, but we didn't get it through. But it was very informative because sometimes decisions on redistricting are made maybe not as a positive for the community. So I'll let that go with that. I'm very happy to be here. I thank you all for coming on a freezing night, and it gives you a good excuse not to have to watch the State of the Union address. Just
The next candidate for District 2 is Michelle. Wait for the timekeepers to be ready.
Good evening. I'm here for maybe very different reasons and very different beginnings, and that is because I'm the oldest child of a teenage mom, and I'm the product of intergenerational cycles of poverty, dysfunction, and abuse. I experienced some serious and severe childhood trauma. I know the lasting impact that trauma has. I know what it's like to be hungry. We were homeless for 3 months during a period of time in our childhood. And when I became an adult, decided that not only was I going to, first of all, change the cycle and break the cycle of dysfunction and abuse in my own family, but I wanted to make a difference for everyone else, for every other child like myself who were in families for a variety of reasons and were experiencing abuse, neglect, lack of opportunities, or for the families who were struggling because they never had the education or the opportunities. And I have spent my entire life devoted to public service as a result of that. I have 25 years in public service, and I started off as a youth counselor in a low-income, crime-ridden community in San Bernardino, on 9th Avenue in San Bernardino. I was a child protective services worker. I worked in child prevention, domestic violence prevention, family violence prevention. I either founded or co-founded the Senior Coalition of Solano County, the Fall Prevention Partnership, the Centenary Commemoration, the many medical schools, an award-winning many medical school, Living Legacy Awards. I actually started the senior poverty work that was going on because people aren't recognizing that a lot of seniors and older adults actually are experiencing limited income, and that private housing market is outpricing them. And so many of them are finding new places where their income doesn't meet the expenses that they have. And we did some phenomenal work bringing people together to create a video with the National Senior Center Law Center, now called Justice and Aging. And that particular video was used both at the national level as well as the state level for advocacy for low-income older adults. I brought in $6 million for reentry services, Prop 47, to begin to address that transition gap from people that are exiting jail back into the community. I'm the founder and chair of the Fire Safe Council, addressing wildfire preparedness, the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, chair of a Measure P Oversight Committee of the City of Fairfield, so I'm a big fan of what's going on in Fairfield, and I know we've got a long ways to go, but there's some great things happening there. I'm also the vice president of a nonprofit that's a low-income senior apartment complex. I'm here to serve, and I get stuff done, and I do it by forming the public-private partnerships. The only way we ever really address the needs of the community and really make sure that the needs of our children and our older adults and everyone in between are met is if we work together to identify what those needs are, bring the services together, and work relentlessly to solve those issues. I think one of the things that we need as an elected official is somebody who's going to listen and deeply listen and work with people to make sure that those services not only meet the individual, but they make a difference.
Okay, our next candidate for District 2 is Kate Patrice Williams.
Please, my neighbors.
Ready?
Okay. So my name is Kate Patrice Williams, and I am running for Solano County Supervisor District 2. Thank you to the Solano Links and to Delta Sigma Theta and to Alpha Kappa Alpha and Bethel Church You all are pillars in our community, and you care about voter registration and girls and youth, and I appreciate everything that you do. Some of you all may know me as a fellow board member, or a business owner, or the mother of Miles Hall. I'm looking at him because he's actually here tonight, looking down. Some of you may know me as a grassroots community organizer. Some of you may know me as the founder of the Solano Napa chapter of WAPA, Black Women Organized for Political Action. But I wanted to share some things that you may not know about me. My father, Andrew Williams, was a heat treat worker and a union man who would come home and talk about how his union brothers would fight for equal pay and promotions. When my mother passed away, who was the love of my dad's life, we were able to keep my dad sheltered in place by assessing senior services for him, including transportation and access to his dialysis center. You all also may not know that my husband, who hides from these things, is an Amazon driver. Our 20-year anniversary to moving to Vallejo just happened 2 weeks ago. We've been here 20 years. We raised 2 boys, and in the last 3 years, we lived in Fairfield. I'm proud to say that today we run a women's and children's transitional home, a shelter. I understand working families because we are a working family. I understand community building because the foundation of who I am is a community builder. I understand small businesses because I'm a small business owner. My youth team and I have met many of you at your homes or at events because we see that we care about exactly the same thing. Smart economic growth in Solano County, accessible housing, addressing the homelessness epidemic. I will be with you and serve with you for the next 4 years. I just need your vote. Thank you for having me. I look forward to answering your questions. If we do not cover a question, feel free to reach me through my website, www.kpatrice4supervisor.com.
Okay, now we move to the candidates for District 5. First is David C. Axon, current board trustee of the Fairfield Unified School District. Let's wait for the timekeepers.
Good evening. First, let me say thank you to the ladies of Alpha Sorority Incorporated and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Links, and to the Bethel Church. I have prepared notes because we had a certain amount of time and I've been doing so much work in the community, I would have run out. My name is David Axon, and I'm a Democrat running in this race for District 5. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Stephanie, and up until last February, my 2 grandchildren were living here with us, but because of the lack of affordable housing, we had to relocate them back to Missouri. They're living in an apartment that's larger than the one that they were living in here, and the rent is half. We need to do something about that. I was raised in the church, as were 2 incredible people. My father and my mother taught me the value of taking care of the least of these. I learned not to judge, but to support anyone who needed it and who wanted it. And although my dad passed away 6 years ago on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, his words still resonate in my heart. You can do anything because God has equipped you. I am a man of faith. Solano County needs a supervisor with a record of community service and community leadership, someone that understands governance. As an Army veteran, pastor, advocate for victims of crime, especially domestic violence and sexual assault, and as board president for the past 5 years of the Fairfield Unified School District, I have the experience to represent you and make the decisions that are best for our community, one and all. A safe Solano County needs providing first responders and law enforcement with the resources that they need so our community is safe. I serve on Fairfield Police Department's Citizens Review Panel. We make sure that our citizens who complain were heard. I serve on the Fairfield Police Department's Promotions Panel, which means for a few years you couldn't get promoted in Fairfield to be a police officer unless you came to a couple of us. It was a wonderful opportunity. We must prioritize safe and well-maintained roads, reduce congestion, and including on I-80, and create additional transportation options, including local job creation by attracting more businesses to our county, thusly reducing the large amount of commuter traffic that we currently experience. I'm running for county supervisor to further my work in the community, moving from the advocacy and education to focus on the larger community and the challenges that we're facing today. We as a community with the right leadership can do whatever it is that we need to do to solve the problems. Thank you for hearing from me.
The next candidate for District 5 is Mitchell Mashburn. Mr. Mashburn is a member of the Vacaville City Council and was not able to participate tonight due to a special meeting of the council. So thank you, candidates, for those opening remarks. We'll now move into the moderated questions that we'll propose to you. So there are 5 speakers, there's 5 questions. So what I will do is, so that each person has a chance to go first, that Mr. Eisen will start with you for question number 1, Mr. Rocker will start with you for question 2, okay. And there are 2 timekeepers. This is a 2-minute question and answer period. Okay. So I will start the question. That will not count towards your time. And then Mr. Eisen, you will have 2 minutes. Any questions? Okay, question number 1. We have seen a growing population of homelessness encampments, people roaming neighborhoods and shopping areas, using our streets and parks to relieve themselves. And we consistently listen to proposed remedies from city and county officials. Compared to the other surrounding Bay Area counties, compared to the other surrounding Bay Area counties, Solano County sometimes does not receive equitable resources when dealing with regional issues, such as lack of shelters or access to mental health services. Some residents have wondered about a joint city effort to build or convert existing facilities to shelter individuals and families. What is your top strategy for handling the growing homelessness population in our county? Mr. Eisen, I'll let you answer that.
Thank you. The top strategy for addressing the homeless community and the growing population of homelessness in our community is working together with the agencies that are already providing services. Here's what I believe is a concern. We have a lot of agencies that are providing services to the homeless, but they're working in silos. They're not working together. Some have solutions, some don't. We need to get with those that have solutions, get together with them, and work together to make sure that we are addressing it in meaningful ways. You wouldn't believe how many buildings that Solano County actually owns that are vacant, that can be used to house homes. It doesn't take a lot to transform some of these buildings into habitable spaces. I believe that that is a big solution too. Also, there's money that's coming down the pipeline from Sacramento, from Gavin Newsom, his new budget he signed. If you create wraparound services for homeless individuals, you get money to build facilities for them. So we must tap into the resources in Sacramento. We must pay attention to the resources that are coming, that are available to us, and make use of those resources. Thank you.
And just let me know, candidates, if you need me to repeat the questions. Mr.
So I didn't mention earlier, but addressing homelessness is the #1 key issue that I'm going to focus on. First of all, what we have to recognize is that people that are homeless do not fall into a single bucket in terms of the reasons why they ended up being homeless. So we need to address and create strategies that target the unique cause that contributed to the homelessness in the first place. Some people are being priced out of the market. There is rapid rehousing dollars, which actually helps people with rental assistance getting back into and finding places to rent. We need to make sure that those are available for individuals that are priced out of the market. Solano County needs a shared housing program. Shared housing is a very innovative program that makes use of existing housing stock. It's really ideal for older adults in particular who might have asset-rich need. They have a home, but they don't have the limited income, and this shared housing program actually will help match them with someone else who also needs a place to live. There's a lot of benefits for that. I would love to go into more details and tell you about that. Our veterans, many of our veterans come back from wartime experience, and they're experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, and they have some special unique needs as a result of that. So what we need to do is we need to make sure our Veterans Office is working on behalf of the veterans, and that they're tapping into every single benefit that they are entitled to, and then develop those kind of partnerships like with Habitat for Humanity that developed the Dixon Veterans Home out in Dixon that's helping the housing. But finally, the homeless issue that we're talking about is the ones that chronic homeless are often those that have mental health issues or substance abuse addictions. If we address those other individuals and make sure that we're serving them, then what we need to do is direct those individuals with the chronically homeless into shelters and provide those kinds of resources that treat their mental health as well as the substance abuse addiction. Part of this is I think the county needs, and unless I'm the county supervisor, the county needs to assign a mental health specialist that will accompany law enforcement teams such as the City of Fairfield Homeless Intervention Team, although they do have a social worker and others, to assess the individual in the field and connect them to needed resources. I'm told to end. I've got a lot more to say. Come and talk to me afterwards.
We don't have to share this time. Hi, thank you. We don't have to share our mics, so it's different. So part of getting Laura's Law through is so that when parents, family members see somebody in their family that needs help, we can get them assessed. That took a while to get through, but in Vallejo with Mayor Bob Sampayan, money has come from the different, Kaiser, the different hospitals to open up a navigation center. But one of the things, I'm going to go back to mental health. I serve on the Mental Health Advisory Board. The Health and Social Services worked with our local assemblyman to try to get money so that we could open up a 35-bed unit on Beck Avenue. Over here on Beck Avenue. Nobody lives there, so it'll be okay. And we couldn't get it through. It's stuck in appropriations. And so we're working to see if we can find some grant funding. But Shelter Inc. used to be Mission Solano. Does not take you unless you have a funding source. So that's part of the problem. Cap Solano, which is where money is coming in, gave Shelter Inc. $2.4 million to build a kitchen. I personally have a hard time with that when we need to be sheltering people. So there's different things, but one of the things that the Reverend mentioned, I really think we need to look at our nonprofits and those who aren't really cutting the mustard, so to speak, maybe we need to do some sort of consolidation. The other, and if you are a realtor, it's okay, but we need to maybe look at rent control. I know when two establishments, it's not coming to me right now, I'm sorry, in Vallejo, were bought out, the rents were doubled. That's wrong, and so a moratorium went out. So there's different strategies, and also ADU, which is accessory dwelling units. So there's different things, but we just need to start doing it, and we need to talk together and work together.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. One second, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. So homelessness means a lot to me. I started 10 years ago while I was in law school. I needed to do an internship, and there wasn't a homelessness issue here in Solano County. So I did my internship with in San Francisco at then Mayor Galvin Newsom's Homelessness Connect. And what I learned about homelessness and wraparound services surrounding it has marked my career to then go into affordable housing. What we need to do here is we currently have a point in time count of the homeless community, and it's that one period of time where everyone is counted, and it becomes the foundation of grants and resources. The problem is when we talk to Solano County employees And nonprofits, they say we are only at the top tip of the iceberg with that point in time. It really is 2 or 3 times greater than what we're counting. What we need is innovative solutions, transitional grants, they're out there. In fact, I was told by another county that we passed up on a transitional grant of $1.2 million with wraparound services. Also, I have to tell you that the proof that I care about the homeless is because I have a shelter. That's what we're doing, my husband and I. We have a shelter, we've opened up our home to women and children, and we're teaching basic needs and basic skills, including cooking and budgeting and parenting. That all is part of, I get what comes with wraparound services because that's the life I'm living right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
All right, I think somebody mentioned this before, and that is homelessness is an epidemic, and it truly is. The train ran out of the station before the money caught up with it, and the money is still not caught up with it, and it's going to take a long time. The governor's January budget was just his budget, and in his budget, he put $750 million statewide to address homelessness. There are no details, it's not an approved budget, the legislature has to review that and put in their pieces as well. So that money is not yet available to the county or to cities. One of the challenges we have with homelessness is for every person that is homeless, they have a different reason for being homeless. And you've heard some of them, mental health issues, maybe they were veterans of foreign wars, they lost their job, a divorce, domestic violence. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why people are unsheltered, and we have to recognize that. At Solano County, what we do at the county is we support cities in addressing homelessness. We support cities by helping to provide funding to fill gaps. Supervisor Brown talked about the Navigation Center in Vallejo. It is funded by the 3 hospitals in our county for $3 million and 125 beds. The county will provide wraparound services for all of those folks in there and case management to help them become self-sustaining. And that can look like many different things. The other is the city of Vallejo, which I represent most of the city of Vallejo, has in the pipeline a 75-bed housing complex that will be built probably in the next couple of years on Sacramento Street. One of the issues with building low-income and very low-income housing is it is very expensive. So you have to take state dollars, you have to take federal dollars and county dollars and your HUD dollars that come to your cities in order to put all that funding together to actually build. In some instances, it can cost $450,000 per unit. So getting access to that funding is very key. I serve on the California State Association of Counties Executive Board. We have written a letter along with other statewide organizations to the governor to say, look, if you're going to give us money, don't have us out here fighting for it. Put us in a situation where we have half a chance to address the problem in a collaborative way, county-wide.
There are cards that will be passed around for audience questions. So if you would like a card, please raise your hand, and Carl will distribute it to you. Okay. Question number 2, Mr. Luck will start the answering for question number 2. Candidates, what is your answer to maintaining or increasing community safety, while at the same time ensuring that law enforcement does not abuse authority in Solano County and only use deadly force as a last resort? Mr. Rock.
Okay, so first of all, I mentioned in my opening statement that I wrote a grant brought in $6 million for entry and screening services. I think one of the things that we need to do to increase public safety actually is to make sure individuals that are involved in the criminal justice system are given the resources and the opportunities to develop job skills, to deal with the mental health or substance abuse issues as those are occurring, to get stabilized in their home, to get reunited with their families, to be embedded around in churches and positive community support so that they can be contributing members of society. We have to address the root cause of crime, and the root cause of crime often is the lack of opportunity, the lack of jobs, the despairing that can occur for individuals when they don't have those kinds of opportunities, and we need to do our best to make sure that we can increase living wage jobs, make sure that people have access and opportunities to be trained for those jobs, and are actually getting employed by them. As far as the community safety and the policing part of the question, I really think that our local law enforcement, we need to do more in terms of de-escalation training. We need to do more in terms of talking and training us around implicit biases. We also need more community policing, where our law officers are actually embedded in the community. They know the community. Quite frankly, I mean, this is crossing into city as well as county, because we have the sheriff's department as well as city police departments. But I think we need to actively start recruiting from our communities to be law enforcement with our police departments and with our sheriff's departments. But it's really around addressing opportunity, making sure people have jobs, making sure we're addressing underlying causes. And I'm going to tell you that a lot of the people that are in the criminal justice system actually have a history of trauma. And that trauma often will lead to mental health issues and often lead to abusing of substances to try to kind of self-medicate. As someone who understands very personally the impact that trauma has on you, it's a long road. But we also need to make sure that we have trauma-informed care, that we're using evidence-based practices, that we're doing everything we can to train social workers, caseworkers, and law enforcement.
I apologize. Sure. I misunderstood, I think, the question. Could you read that again?
Sure. Candidates, what is your answer to maintaining or increasing community safety while at the same time ensuring that law enforcement does not abuse authority in Solano County and only use deadly force as last resort? Ms. Brown.
Yes, thank you. So one of the things, the sheriff and I've had a conversation, well, we're the ones with conversations. He is willing to go, and I'm thinking of a particular community, and go and help the police officers to understand what you need to do and to step back so that we have more of a positive flavor of Solano County across the northern part of California. You don't read anything negative with the sheriff's department, but you do in certain other places. So what we actually have to do is sit down, and it's a contract, and I'm a union person, but we need to have our city councils look over the contract and say, maybe that person should not be a police officer. In the unincorporated area, each area has a deputy sheriff. So in Vallejo, Benicia, we have Brandy. I love Brandy. You can call Brandy, she will come out with anything that might be happening. So we have that in Fairfield, we have that up and down. So I don't like guns, so I'm just going to say that right now. I don't like guns. We need to figure out a way that pulling out a gun and however it is going to happen should not happen. So we need to talk with kids and say shooting is not the answer. We need to talk with adults. Shooting is not an answer, and just carrying a badge does not give you carte blanche. So I'm just going to say it that way, and I'm done. I'm tired of it.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Williams? Wait, let's get the...
Thank you. So, both community safety and public and food safety, both are important. And what I know is that we can increase both of those together. We work together. As I mentioned earlier, when I left law school, I worked in affordable housing for a number of years. And we were a part of a task force. And it included the apartment complex across the street, actually. In Vallejo was Sereno Village. I met you first. I met you there. It included code enforcement, police officers, and nonprofits, including Fighting Back, and some others that I just don't remember because I just too long ago. And together we worked and we decreased calls for services at so many of these locations that were being tied calls for services. And in fact, we were getting, those organizations were getting fines that were doing the real estate development there and property management. So together I know that we can increase community safety and police safety because I've seen it done. And the answer is we do it together in a task force.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Community safety and policing is a two-sided equation. You have police, law enforcement, and you also have the individuals in the community. I live in a city where we have had atrocious shootings by police officers that have killed mostly young black men in our community for years now. And it is atrocious. And it seems to me, and I think it seems to the community, that deadly force is the first resort. And that's not right. Some of these young men have had mental illness. They've been shot in the back as they're running away. I mean, things that really should not happen to people in our country and certainly in our county. Addressing the police force, I don't think is having more police, because that doesn't solve some of the problems that have been created in the community. But implicit bias training, as well as coordinated communication systems and community policing, which is a more softer approach to the community, to the people that live there, and it's respectful. The other side of the equation are folks who find themselves in our justice system. And that other side of the equation is what concerns me, and they both concern me, but that's where I think we can get a leg up. We talk about root crimes, the root causes of criminal behavior. I believe education, lack of education is a big one. In Vallejo, for many decades, we've had graduation rates in our high schools hovering around 65%. Now, those people who leave our schools still need to eat, they need to put shoes on their feet, they need to put a roof over their head, and they need to provide for their families. And they're making choices based on the poor choices that are available to them. So one of the things we've put in place is our CPC, the Center for Positive Change. These are folks who are coming out of our jail system, helping get them trained, get jobs, be productive members of the community, as well as our First Life Center, which will be opening on February 13th, which is not only going to teach our young kids so that they're prepared for school, but it's also going to help the families in providing resources to them so they're successful.
Thank you. Question number 3, Ms. Franklin, first on the answer. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's so fast.
I gave you old Rochelle for and saying shh.
You got a question?
Mr. Eisen, sure. What is your answer to maintaining or increasing community safety, while at the same time ensuring that law enforcement does not abuse authority in Solano County and only use deadly force as a last resort? Maintaining or increasing community.
Maintaining or increasing. So in 2012, I was one of the 4 signers on the ballot measure for Measure F, the city of Fairfield, which backfilled the money that was lost in the community development block grant. We lost a lot of money in the recession. So we did a bond, Measure F, and it backfilled all of that money because we needed to keep law enforcement on the street. We needed to keep them funded. That was a temporary fix, but in 2016, Measure F was voted again on the ballot, and it passed successfully. And so it's an ongoing effort. So we have the resources here in Fairfield. I think that we need to look across the county, look at the other types of programs we can do to ensure that law enforcement has the proper training. As a member of the Fairfield Unified School District's governing board, we opened the PSA, Public Safety Academy, for young people who are interested in law enforcement and civic service employment when they get out of school. So we've been already working in this field. Also, having served on the police promotions panel, we get to really talk to the police officers that are looking to be promoted and hired, and make sure that we understand as community members what's on their mind. We play out scenarios. And then finally, my law enforcement support is very clear because I've been endorsed by the last 2 chiefs of police for the city of Fairfield, Kenton Rainey and Joe Allen. So I look forward to working very closely with law enforcement across the county.
Thank you, Mr. Eisen. The next question, and several of you mentioned this in your opening statements. We have witnessed an unbelievable increase in traffic on our freeways and highways over the last decade in our county. Even though we have HOV lanes, ride sharing, and an increase of cross-city bus transportation, there are still consistent, multiple delays and jams. I was in one today. Many underserved residents and low-income workers rely on public transportation to go to and from work, medical appointments, shopping, school pickup. Please share your ideas to improve or increase Solano County public transit options to help ease traffic. And Ms. Brown, I will start with you.
Okay, guys, so here we go. I was opposed to Regional Measure 3, which raised the tolls from $5 to $8. The reason for that is we didn't get to keep this money. We're paying 14%, but we only got to keep 10%. We're giving Silicon Valley $1 billion so they can extend their BART 10 miles, because they turned down in the year 2000 a 1% sales tax. We are a poor county. I don't think we get our fair share. So saying that, I believe that we need to look at a different model. And why do we have big buses? I don't get it. And they also don't come when they're supposed to. I've had these come. They don't come when they're supposed to. And you're relying on it. Here, we don't have anything electronic like they do in Berkeley so that you can see what time a bus is coming. My son took a bus up until a year ago. It takes 2 buses to get from our house, which is by Rodriguez, to the community college, and it's 30 minutes. Why? It's 8 miles. That makes no sense. So I think we need to sit down and, to be honest with you, revamp the entire system. We need buses, yes, if we're going to go to BART, I get all that. But the point is, we need to look at ride sharing, we need to dial a ride, we need to do things that makes it convenient so that if you need public transportation, it's right there. And why is it that it's always the poor people? I don't mean to be rude with the question, but there are a lot of people out there who can't ride transit because maybe it's hard to access. But you guys, we need to sit down and figure it out. That it's not, our money should not be going and taking care of other people. That's just wrong. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Williams?
Thank you for this question. So, 2 things. Before I lived here, I lived in New York City. Before I lived in New York City, I lived in Washington, D.C. And in both cities, the way whether you were a student or an employer or employee, whether you were a senior or student, these were systems that worked really well. You could go from different counties fairly easily, economically. So just moving here was a bit of a shock. How difficult it was to get from one city to another city or county to county. So I acknowledge that. And that is the reason why I joined MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, as a public policy advisor, because I wanted a seat at the table to really talk about how to make transportation easier. But the interesting part of this question is that I go to people's houses and we meet at events and we talk about different topics and transportation has come up. And I remember just a few months ago, there was someone that was part of an engineering an engineering firm. And what they said, and I thought this was really interesting, she said, when you get on that board, what I want you to do is look at the on-ramps and off-ramps. Because as transportation engineers, we can tell you that it's not designed properly. And that is causing a lot of the traffic. So that is on my list as something to look at. How are our on-ramps and off-ramps engineered? Because I hadn't heard of that before. But that is also why we should be doing community forums and we should bring all minds to the table and have these discussions, because out of this, you get these really interesting and innovative solutions that we need to look into.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
All right, so traffic is a problem. I mean, it's a problem for all of us. And unfortunately, Solano County still has a Mayberry attitude. You know, we are a small county. Other counties in the other 8 counties in the Association of Bay Area Governments or in the Bay Area are much larger counties. They have bigger systems. They have more connected systems. And so, I mean, I agree that we do need to work with our different cities. Every city has its own bus system. we need to expand that. So they connect all together 100%, and they can go in and out of throughout Solano County, helping people get to where they need to go. I think will increase our public transit ridership, as well as our fare box recovery. One of the issues with traffic on our roads is we are not a self-help county, and what that means is, I believe it's been 3 times a transportation tax has been put on the ballot in Solano County. It passes in some cities, like in Vallejo and Benicia, but it doesn't pass in Fairfield or Vacaville or Dixon, because they don't see the need for that money or to pay those extra taxes. And so we get caught up in these regional measures that, one, will cost us money, but because we have strong advocates in our COGS, our communities of governments, that we are at the table, we're able to bring resources back to the county. So I think Jim Sparing has done a good job. And until we're a self-help county, that's all we have. And most of the people who are traveling on Highway 80 don't live here. They're going from Sacramento to somewhere else or back and forth. A couple of resources that we do have in the county that I think are pretty amazing is the Capital Corridor, as well as our ferry system out of Vallejo. If you ever rode the ferry system out of Vallejo, it's a great way to travel to San Francisco. Recently, we put on the streets 2 mobility vans to address the transportation needs of seniors as well as people living with disabilities. And it isn't we're only taking you to your doctor's appointment and back. We're going to take you to your friends and get you home.
Thank you, Ms. Hannon. Mr. Isom. Sure. We have witnessed an unbelievable increase in traffic on our freeways and highways over the last decade in our county. Even though we have HOV lanes, ride sharing, and an increase of cross-city bus transportation, there are still consistent multiple delays and jams. Many underserved residents and low-income workers rely on public transportation to go to and from work, medical appointments, shopping, and school. Please share your ideas to improve or increase Solano County public transit options to help ease traffic.
Thank you. Shout out to the bus drivers that are on time. So, this is really interesting. How many of y'all know, like a year ago, you got a 12-cent gas tax?
Oh, yeah.
How many of you know that about a month ago, it was proposed to build a $60 million Solano Transit Authority building in Sicily? You want to fix the roads? Don't build a $60 million building.
Right.
Put that $60 million where it's supposed to go, where we voted for it to go, to fix the roads. I'm also was endorsed by the Solano Orderly Growth Committee. Let's grow orderly, let's grow up, instead of growing out. And as we grow up, let's create some jobs locally, so we don't have to combat traffic. Some of these solutions are pretty easy. And I'll say this, the reason that I'm running for Solano County Supervisor is because we complicate things that are pretty easy. There's some things that just need to change, and they're not discussed. And when you don't hear them being discussed, then you don't feel like you can do anything as a community. But if you hear the leaders talking about it, then it gives you the opportunity to say, you know what? Yeah, we can do something about it. DavisTheIsom.com.
Thank you, Mr. Isom. Ms. Sherlock?
Okay, so this is a multi-pronged approach, and it's also a very expensive fix. First of all, we have to do transit-centered, high-density, multi-purpose housing that allows people to work close to where they live. It'll not only begin to address some of the housing issues and concerns, but it will also enable people to maybe not have to be on the commuting and the driving on those roads so much. It needs to be walkable, and I think those kinds of things make a lot of sense, both in terms of the orderly growth, but it also makes a lot of sense is if I'm closer to my job, where I live, then it's going to reduce any kind of commuting time. And by the way, if I can get there by walking or cycling, that's fabulous. We are a very rural, spread out county, and so supporting the buses is a huge challenge. However, we can support local businesses and economic development so we can increase jobs here locally so people aren't going to be commuting outside of the county. So when we get all that congestion on the freeways, there's like 60% of the residents here in Solano County commute outside of the county. So if we can bring more local jobs here, I'm a big believer in telecommuting. I own my own business. I work out of my own home. And as a result of that, I save, not only do I save, not spend so much time in congestion, but I save a lot of time that gets directed towards being productive as a work person. I really would like to see more of a telecommuting. We're carpooling, commuter access, there's a commuter access van. The Solano Mobility has a call center that can help people can tap into other groups that are going to places and through that carpooling or through the commuter vans. And then I think we need to partner with major employers. I think the real issue to the question from my heart here is that individuals who are having lower wage jobs and are struggling to get to their location, we need to really maybe do a better assessment around where those jobs are. Those major employers can help with busing and shipping employees. Genentech does it all the time. People in San Francisco, those big companies will actually ship their employees to those places. So we need to do more of that. I think like Six Flags, the mall for some of our youth, etc.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, a little adjustment in what I previously outlined. We're going to go to question number 5, and that will begin with Ms. Williams.
So are we
skipping We're skipping 4, and then we'll go to question number 5, which will begin with Ms. Williams, and then we start the audience Q&A that will be in Ms. Hank. Solano County's portion of IE has now become part of the recruiting triangle for sex and human trafficking. It is a growing crime problem and has posed a new threat to our community. What would you do to make the community more aware of the seriousness of this increasing problem? And as a supervisor, what steps would you take to make our county a safe haven? Ms. Williams?
And I'll see the disadvantage of going first. So this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. We just came out of Human Trafficking Month in January, and it's something that's been on my mind. So I interviewed recently with the police, the Venetia Police Officers Association, and brought this as one of the concerns because I want to talk to all of the police agencies about it and see are they aware and what are solutions to put into place. So in talking to them, and by the way, they endorsed me. They were talking about a narcotic task force that would be county driven and have all of the police, the city police departments throughout the county, including the sheriff's department, a part of the board. So you say narcotics, what does that have to do with sex trafficking? It does, it has an impact. They've already had this task force and they were able to make an impact on not only sex and human trafficking, but other areas as well. So that's one out-of-the-box thought, but I believe there are more. And I believe some of those solutions live with some of the nonprofits that are helping in this area already.
All right, human trafficking is essentially modern day slavery, and it comes in many forms. It comes in the form of workers who are forced to work to repay a debt, like maybe that could occur in a massage parlor, or in some other type of labor that would be required of the person who is being held against their will. It can also be the trafficking of girls and boys. We call it commercially sexually exploited children, CSEC children, and I serve on the steering committee for the county's response to children who find themselves in that situation. And the steering committee is a it's a countywide, multiple agency organization. It includes health and social services, it includes law enforcement, it includes folks from our DA's office, from our public defender's office, and it includes nonprofits who work with victims of CSEC crimes, and because these folks have been brainwashed, and they need help getting back to, once they're found, getting back into society. And so we work in a 360-degree manner in helping people who are found, primarily children, in a CSEC situation. I personally held at least 4 forums in Vallejo, and they're primarily awareness forums about human trafficking. They've included law enforcement, they've included nonprofits, they've included our health and social services and child welfare services. We also had a play that occurred in Solano County. It was at the Empress Theater in Vallejo. It was called Alice in Wonderland, kind of a take on Alice in Wonderland about how children are brought into the trade of CSEC, and then we also showed it in Vacaville as well. In the city of Vallejo, within the school district, which was a part of this awareness program, they went to every single grade. They taught the teachers first and the administrators, and then they went to every single grade, and they were grade specific and sensitive to make sure that teachers understood what it looked like, and when they were talking to children, they were talking to children in a way about it
Thank you, Ms.
that was helpful.
Ms. Joyce? No, to move to my meeting.
No, from 2011 to 2013, I sat on a strategic planning task force to start a family justice center here in Solano County. First of its kind in the county. It's a one-stop shop. We call it a one-stop shop for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, child abuse, and sex trafficking. As a matter of fact, Board Member Hannigan had an issue she called one time that someone was being trafficked, and we were able to reach out to some of the resources that we have to get that person rescued. So I have deep experience in working with victims of, again, this type of abuse, this type of crime. We work directly even today. I'm in the field today. My credentials are current today for being able to work in advocacy with victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking. And one of the panelists shared that this narcotics situation, what happens is a lot of times these young persons are drugged, and then they're drugged until they're strung out, and then they're dependent on the drug, and then they will do what it needs to be done in order to get the drug. And so there's a multi-layer solutions to this situation, but what it really again takes is people that really care about it and talk about it outside of these forums, talk about it publicly on the dais of our government agencies, talk about it on the dais at the Solano County Board of Supervisors, at City Hall, at the school district, where we do talk about it. So this is something that we can talk about publicly and begin to address. Also, there are a lot of foundations that have lots of money just to address trafficking. We just need to tap into it.
Thank you, Ms. Tyson. Michelle?
Okay, so I would say, first of all, as a consultant, I'm an organizational effectiveness consultant, and I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of different kinds of organizations. In particular, I work with a nonprofit named Fairfield. It's a sexual assault prevention and intervention program, and they specifically have been addressing this around sex trafficking. There's a woman, her name's Rosalind, and I'm forgetting her last name. She owns Ethnic Notions in Vallejo, and she has been trying to get attention on the sex trafficking and the prostitution that's happening down there for a long time. Here's what's happening, is that the law enforcement isn't prosecuting. They're not prosecuting the Johns. She even suggested, this is in Vallejo, that, hey, why don't you just publish the John's name? Let's make sure we start to embarrass them. The cop said, I'm sorry, we don't want to embarrass their family. This is going to ruin their reputation. We've got to actually have courage and see this for what it really is in terms of a travesty and a devastation to the individuals who are being prostituted or trafficked. Vacaville actually has a sting operation. There is a law enforcement officer who goes out and kind of dresses like it, waits for people to try to pick her up. They're willing to actually come to some of the different cities. They're willing to do trainings. We need to train our local law enforcement in this. They're willing to do sting operations to arrest these individuals, and particularly the pimps. But then also with Verity, one of the things that they do is they partner with hotels and other places where you might see this string of, so like maybe the truck stops, hotels, low-end hotels and motels, and and make them mandated reporters. Make them partners in this effort to identify when they suspect that trafficking is occurring, to notify local law enforcement, and then having a swift local law enforcement response. One of the things that we have to be thoughtful of is that a lot of times the individuals who have been trafficked actually really have been oppressed. They've been beaten, they're terrified. Getting them out and keeping them out of those situations is difficult, so we need to make sure we have a wraparound service, social work response, and ideally it's somebody who maybe has some lived experience, who can move their life on, who can talk to them. There's a better way, there's better opportunities, and then make sure that there's safe shelters. And I'm going to counter something that was said earlier. Our nonprofits need our help.
So when I attended a forum in Benicia, we had a speaker that came from Sacramento who was trafficked in Benicia. And the stories that she told, her own personal stories, you could see some of the women looking and think at each other going, could that have been my husband? Because it was a dentist was mentioned, a doctor. So it doesn't matter, it's all different levels of economic. One of the things that Solano County Office of Ed is working on is setting up wellness centers in every school. And we're hoping by doing that a child can go in and get whatever help that they need, and that will feel comfortable because no one will know why you're going in to the wellness center. But we also need to work out the fact that I'm not sure if it should be K, but at least 1st through 12th grade, every year there should be a curriculum so we talk with students and students feel safe. We're hoping with that kind of discussion to go to a wellness center. And one of the things that somebody mentioned and I agree with is that we need to have shelters for the kids. It's one thing to get them out of the trafficking, but many of them left because their home situation. And so we need a place for them. And so it's an all-encompassing area, but Supervisor Hannigan said it succinctly. It is just sex trade. It's also slavery, and it's wrong, and we need to educate everybody. That includes the fact that young men can also be abused. And we need to get away from the stigma and talk about what this means. It's sex, guys, and we need to be able to show why it's wrong and let people be aware of that and have those frank discussions.
Thank you. So that ends our moderated question panel. And I have audience questions here. And so in the interest of time, we're going to do a slight readjustment again. And so what we'll do is each candidate will answer just one question, and then the next question goes to the next candidate. So you're not all answering the same questions, just different questions, and I just put them in random order. How much time? The same 2 minutes. 2 minutes? Yeah. No. I was just checking to make sure that the audience Q&A is still 2 minutes. Aaron, what are your plans for supporting education in Solano County? The academic test scores are among the lowest in the state.
Well, I mentioned earlier about the First Five Center, and there's a lot you can do, but I want to talk about the First Five Center because it is a place that is not only are you familiar with First Five? So First Five is money that comes from the state to the counties. Every county, there's 58 of them, have a First Five commission. The tax money is on cigarette tax. So buy the cigarettes, but then don't smoke them. So we can continue to do the good work that First Fives do throughout the state of California. They address early mental health issues. They address parenting issues with parents. And the First Five means the first 5 years because we know that a brain grows the most in their first 5 years of life. And so we're targeting them, very much targeting that age set in our county with the First Five Center. It opens up next week on Thursday from 11 to 2. You're all welcome to come and check it out. It is a beautiful place. The tenant improvements were $1.8 million. It's located in a site that is data-driven. It is a place in Solano County where 68% of the children living in that radius are being raised in a home of poverty. And it's for anybody. It's not just for Vallejoans, it's for anybody throughout the county. And it doesn't matter your income level or anything like that. All the services are free. You just have to be a parent or a caregiver of a child under the age of 6. And you have to have that child with you. It's not a leave the child and go. It's like, let's work together. Let's read books. Let's play. Let's take a nutrition class. Let's take a parenting class. Let's meet up with all kinds of resources, because this is where I call it the economic development center. And that is not only are we preparing children to be successful in school, and I talked earlier about the graduation rates in our Vallejo schools, so we're going to have better successes in our schools because of this center and the work that they'll be doing, but we are also helping parents access resources to get better jobs, move to better locations, to improve their skills, so they're actually can get themselves out of poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Isom. Vacaville has no homeless shelter. 90% of homeless are men. The city and county have for 2 years talked about what to do. What will you do? Mental health and drugs are ways to deal with street life.
Thank you for the question. I was at a board of supervisors meeting about a month ago, and I think about 25 public speakers were there from Vacaville proper to talk about the issue of homelessness. I believe that what Vacaville needs to do is step up. I believe that the city council in Vacaville needs to look at their own situation. And as one of the Supervisor Henning has said tonight, the county's job is to support the cities concerning these issues. So Vacaville must address its own situation, come to the county with a solution, and see how we can partner to get these homes off of the street. Again, there are habitable places, there are dwellings that can be used now, and it's just those members of the city council in Vacaville are not interested in addressing it. So the fire needs to be lit under them, under the leaders of the city of Vacaville. They need to come up with a solution, and we in the county will support that solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isom. Ms. Sherlock. Recently, the state closed the list for people to apply for Section 8 in Solano County. The list continues to get longer and longer. However, the inventory is becoming fewer and fewer. How do you plan to help address this element of the housing crisis? Specifically, Section.
Okay, coming back, I am a vice president on the board of Section 8, low-income senior housing apartment complex right here in Fairfield. And their funding is limited, but I'm going to come back to the shared housing program. Shared housing is a very innovative way to make use of existing housing stock to serve the need for individuals who do not have the income levels to support renting houses. So that's the lower income and lower to moderate, because a lot of moderate, medium income workers actually can't afford to live here in Solano County either. Shared housing, it matches a homeowner, or even if you're renting a location, it could be an apartment complex, it could be a house, it matches them with someone else who actually rents the room for them. In the case of somebody maybe who has a disability, or somebody who is an older adult with limited mobility, the renter can actually exchange some of the housekeeping services or some caregiving services in exchange for the rent. It enhances overall, it reduces isolation and enhances overall emotional and social health. What we have to do though is the cities are responsible for building housing, and they haven't done it, and that hasn't happened across it hasn't happened across the state of California. So the state is mandating that the cities begin to do more housing development. We're seeing a lot more housing development occurring here in the city of Fairfield. Other cities need to get on board to do that. I think if we increase housing stock and housing supply, then rents will automatically go down. Is that going to be a solution for everybody? No. I think part of the issue is that we have to build different kinds of houses, those high distance, maybe smaller units in apartment complex, condos, townhouses that are transit-centered, so that there's more options for individuals, both by choice, because a lot of our millennials don't necessarily want to own a big old home with a big old yard that they have to take care of. They might like something that's a little bit smaller to scale. But we need really to partner with them and make sure that we address, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the sign.
Ms. Brown, this question actually was addressed for you.
Oh my gosh.
The question is, have you set up a foundation as you previously promised? And how is the foundation funded?
So I didn't set up the foundation. It turned out to be more paperwork. By the time I paid taxes, state, federal, Social Security, but I have been giving my money away. So you can look at Arneo High School, the school garden, Pennycook. I have sponsored and will be sponsoring the buses to go to Ag Day. Sorry, it's just not coming to me right now. So we have a list. So if you're interested in where all that money and stuff is gone, we're happy to give that out. I know Todd Hansen has asked for it. He writes for the Daily Republic. But my money has been going out $35,000 each year. So just ask, happy to talk to you. But if you talk to my Title I schools, Sheldon, Pennycook, Glencoe, Robert Semple, I give it Mary Farmer. Yes, thank you. One more minute. Also the high schools. I also support the food pantry at Solano Community College. Talk to Dr. Slade there. I give money to help the student athletes at the community college. So in terms of the wording, in terms of the foundation, you are absolutely correct. So I'm not going to lie on that one, but I have been giving my money out. So I appreciate the question.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Please. What else does proposition? Okay, I'm just going to assume, because I do represent the Secretary of State, there's a Prop 13 on the ballot, but this question is referring to the current Proposition 13 on the ballot. Whoever wrote the question wants to correct me if I'm wrong in that assumption. Okay. What else does Proposition 13 pertain to besides reviewing school improvement funding?
So, I am on the ballot, and I have not mailed it back yet because I need to research the new Proposition 13. And I'm really careful about these matters because I am a former lobbyist. And I do thorough research on any proposition, any AB, SB. I want to see both sides of the issue. And I have not read it in its entirety. So I don't know if you want to give me another question or if that checks the box. I don't know, but
It's your time. If anyone has the text of Proposition 13, I can move on to the next question. And whoever asked for the question can ask after we're done with the form. Okay. We're doing the pros and cons. Who's doing that? Oh, okay. Following this, there will be a discussion about Prop 13 pros and cons, so that you can say for the discussion. I'm a former lobbyist too. Okay. This is the last question. What do I need? Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. Ms. Hannigan, where do you stand on bringing prayer back into the school and bullying? So I'm going to say, where do you stand on prayer in school and solutions toward bullying? I have reformed that question.
Okay. Well, bringing prayer back to schools is not under the purview of a county or a city, and in most instances, it could happen potentially at a private school. that would have to be something that Tony Thurston takes on as our superintendent of public schools in the state of California. So I'll stop there. And the second half?
It refers to the bullying problem. So are there solutions towards bullying that you can address as a county supervisor?
Yeah, I think there are a number of solutions towards bullying, and this takes me back to the First Five Center. I think a lot of children are being raised in households where respect for your elders or respect for others in your classroom is not a part of the how they're raised. And I also think there's too much sugar in our children's diets. I'm just going to get to it. There is too much sugar, there's too much processed foods. And parents, if you want your children to be smarter at school, go back to the whole food, whole food, produce forward diet, because your children will then be normal. And you'll be normal too. But I'm going to have to say that because I have a big problem with some of the diets that our children and people in our community are consuming. It's for health reasons, it's for other reasons. One of the things at the First Five Center that we're going to be teaching children, and we're going to have a class on a regular basis, and that is mindful movement and meditation. Some teachers are doing these in the classrooms already, and essentially what it does is it hits pause for everybody in the classroom to let them take a deep breath, to go, let's listen to the yogis out there. They do something, and that was let's recenter so that we can learn and open our mind to actually learning. Bullying is in my mind, it is a result of violence that is in households. It's a result of diet, and definitely needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause to all of our candidates. It's been very informative. Thank you for going with the flow, and I hope the audience found the information provided by the candidates useful. Thank you to the organizers of this event for asking me to moderate. I think this is my first time moderating Thank you so much for inviting me, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Austin. Oh, I'm so sorry. See, this is what I get. I didn't follow my program. Each of you get 2 minutes for closing remarks. Thank you. Timekeepers at the end. Time for your final way. Yes, since Ms. Hagan ended, Mr. Isom, go ahead. Closing 2 minutes.
Like 2-minute close. So District 5 is the largest geographical district in the county. And in order to do a good job with that large district, you need a lot of support. So I just wanted to share some of the folk that are supporting and have endorsed me. The Napa Solano Central Labor Council, SEIU 10-1, SEIU 2015, the Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition, the Northern Solano Democratic Club, the Solano Orly Growth Committee, John Garamendi, one of our congressmen, Jim Frazier, State Assembly member, Skip Thompson, who's here in the building, the current supervisor, members of the Solano Board of Education, Bridget Huntley, Chair of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee, Lori Wilson, the Mayor of the City of Sassoon, members of city councils in all cities except for Dixon. 6 of the 7 members of the Fairfield Sassoon Unified School Board, members of the school board across the county and state, Ms. A. Marie Young, who sits among us right now, who is the president of the Solano Community College District, several other members of the Solano Community College District, Joe Alio, former police chief, Ken Rainey, former police chief, Vince Webster, former fire chief, Mike Smith, former fire chief, Bo Wampa, Jesse Branch, who I saw in the house tonight, Veteran of the Year. I am a veteran. I need your vote. I need your support. I need your vote. I need your support. If you can't vote, you can spin. You can go on my website, davidcison.com, and make a donation to help my campaign. Thank you again for hearing from me tonight.
We need to support one another. We need to support our nonprofits who are at the forefront of the social and environmental issues that face us. We need to support and work with our faith communities who are actually doing a lot of the critical work that's in the community of feeding the homeless, of trying to support and nurture those that are struggling. We need to support our residents and listen to our residents and really hear them deeply and not come up with platitudes or some other kind of solution that says, oh, okay, it's fine, here's the real issue. All right, and move on. We've got to stop being rude to people. We've got to start listening to one another. We've got to stop pointing fingers at one another. The cities and the counties tend to blame one another, but guess what? Our destinies are tied together. Our destinies are tied together, and if we don't come together and lock arms and begin to identify the root cause of problems and come up with sustainable solutions that target those root causes, we're going to be in the same place 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. I have 25 years of history. I'm passionate about it because I care about people. I care about our lives and our communities. I care about our environment. And I think the only way we're going to do that is together. 25 years of bringing people together to identify root causes, to develop solutions, and then to execute against them and to measure them. Are they having the desired impact? What I'm going to bring to the Board of Supervisors, I'm going to make sure that the county government works for us again and with us again. And I'm going to make sure that we're not just hearing that there's a program in place, but I want to know how many people does that program serve? What kind of difference is that making? Is it making the desired and intended outcome that it's supposed to do? And if not, we're going to evaluate why and fix it. That's called continuous improvement processes. I do it as a consultant. I work with leaders and boards all the time to address issues within organizations, to break down silos, and to make things better for everyone, for each and every single one of us. If you want someone who's not going to be up on a diet somewhere, I'm going to have a pass it on a diet, but really is going to lock arms with you and walk in neighborhoods with you, then I'm that person. I have actually gone on ride-alongs with the homeless population.
Sorry, we put it on the card.
She gave me the green card. I was like, keep going. Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Ms. Brown.
So I am the current supervisor. I have office hours, Benicia, Vallejo, and Cordelia Library. You can come find me anytime. If you want to even go to my county website, you'll see all the newsletters that I've given out. I still have things I still need to do. We still have flooding in District 2. So I was able to get Cecilia Aguilar-Curry, who represents Green Valley and Dixon, and she was able to come. We brought in and I cannot pronounce it, but it's somebody who looks at streams and finds out why they flood. It's not bad. We are going to be working with her to get funding in order to take care of that, because all of that water eventually comes down into Cordelia, which is sea level. The other thing is that we need to get a county weed abatement. I have constituents who call and say they haven't cut down their weeds yet. All we can do right now is to send letters. So we need to have code enforcement. We need to be able to say, if you don't get your weeds cut down, say by May 15th, we'll do it for you, and then we're going to put it on your tax that will be December 10th. So there's lots of things that need to be done, but you also need to be available. So I'm out and about in the community. I really appreciate everybody being here tonight, but I need your support. So if you live in District 2, which is where Sheldon Elementary School and Target, to Green Valley, all down 680, Benicia, Georgia Street South, and Mare Island, or Grizzly Island if you want to meet there, come. Happy to talk with you, happy to work with you, and I think I have done a good job. Is it finished yet? Heck no. We've been a county since 1850, but that doesn't mean that we stop. It means that we take and look at our challenges and move our way forward. So thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. So again, my name is Kay. Oh, sorry. So my name is Kay Patrice Williams. I'm running for Solano County Supervisor, District 2. My background includes working at IBM in corporate America. I was employee number 22, a double click, and we were bought out by Google. And I'm a community leader. I've owned a small business. I have a background in affordable housing and homelessness. We need a leader for District 2 that has leadership with heart, compassion, that's innovative, collaborative, and with a business and legal background. I have been endorsed by over 150 elected officials, formerly elected officials, community leaders, faith-based leaders, educators, small business owners, including Assembly members Tim Grayson, Jim Frazier, and Rebecca Valliere-Cohn. Chairwoman Mary Hannigan, City Council members, school trustees, college trustees, including Amory Young was here. And I've also earned an endorsement of the Solano, Napa Solano Central Labor Council, the Building and Trades and Constructions. How does a new candidate earn those many endorsements? By so many. Because I am genuine, I'm community driven, collaborative, inspired by our youth, I'm smart, and I have a heart for our community. The number is 7,651 votes that I need. And I've been determined to try to touch the hands and look in the eyes of every single one of those 7,651 voters. You know it. You've known me for 2 years because I'm grinding it. I'm out there in the streets looking for you, shaking your hands at events. I want to meet your kids. I want to meet your husbands. I want to meet your wives because it matters.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Well, Dana, this isn't news to you, but I serve the smallest district in the county, District 1, but it is the most dense, and we are an urban district, and we have big city problems. And a lot of the work that I do is around health and social services, addressing the needs of the people in the district, and then it's a little bit of everything outside of the district and throughout the county. I said it in the beginning, my purpose and my passion is helping people. And that's what drives me to do the work that I do. I do know how to govern. I do know how to make policy. I know how to connect people in the community to the services and resources that they need to be successful. And I want to continue to do that work. I think one of the, well, it was a blessing, but in 2016, I did not have an opponent. And one of the challenges we have in Solano County is we've got this dividing line between Vallejo and Benicia and Fairfield and Vacaville. It's a different newspaper on this side of the hill than it is from the other side of the hill. The Vallejo Times-Herald doesn't always report on the wonderful work that is happening at the Board of Supervisors, as well as the challenges that we're facing when we do meet. And so this has given me an opportunity to actually meet with lots of voters, and to talk about my record. I'm very proud of my record. I'm not going to list off all my endorsers, but it's on my flyer out there in the back. One of the things a couple of things I'm very proud of is I was a founder of the Solano County Women's and Girls Commission. I talk about my connection with the Yoshihiki Winton Nation and the $3 million. That money comes to this county to fill the needs that state and federal dollars don't. And the money, how it is distributed every single year, it varies. And it varies because the needs in our community vary. And so it's important to listen to those needs and to move forward. And I would request your vote if you live in District 1.
Thank you. But thank you again to everyone, and thank you, the organizers, for inviting me to moderate this panel. It's very interesting to learn about how my hometown has grown. And now I will turn it over to
I would like to extend a very warm thank you to all of the Board of Supervisors candidates for participating in tonight's program, and a special thank you to our moderator, Tamara Raspberry. For the timekeepers that many didn't see, could you please stand? Ms. Benita and Ms. So candidates have campaign materials on display, so after the program, please stop at their tables or speak to them if you have further questions. We will continue the program by hearing the pros and cons of Prop 13. It came up earlier, and Ms. Lynette Henley will talk about the pros and cons.
Lynette, get aside 5
I'm
minutes.
giving you guys a couple of seconds to come off the stage. Good evening again. I was asked to give you the pros and cons of Prop 13.